Good day and welcome to Mission Control Houston, where we are 28 minutes and some seconds away from the launch of the second automated transfer vehicle, the European Space Agency provided vehicle that'll be delivering some 7 tons worth of cargo to the International Space Station, assuming a good launch today from the launch center in Kourou, French Guiana. Welcome to Mission Control, where Flight Director Bob Dempsey is leading the team here, supporting the Expedition 26 crew aboard the International Space Station and coordinating with the launch control team for ATV-2, or the Johannes Kepler resupply vehicle in Toulouse, France. Station crew is officially in its sleep shift, as tomorrow is going to be a spacewalking day for Oleg Skropochka and Dmitry Kondrachev. But the two spacewalkers and Expedition 26 Commander Scott Kelly and flight engineers Katie Coleman, Alexander Kaleri, and European Space Agency's own Paolo Nespoli have requested and will be receiving streaming video of today's launch of the Automated Transfer Vehicle 2, or Johannes Kepler, named for the famed mathematician. The Kepler vehicle is scheduled to launch from the European Space Agency supplied Ariane 5 rocket from the Ariane Launch Complex 3 in Kourou, French Guiana. Flight controllers in Toulouse, France will control the launch and are coordinating with the ISS control teams here in Houston, and those in Moscow will be helping with the automated docking that's coming up on Wednesday, February the 23rd. This is the second launch of an automated transfer vehicle, which after the shuttle fleet is retired will be able to launch the largest mass to the space station. This will be the heaviest load ever lofted into space on an Ariane 5. It's the 56th Ariane 5 launch, and it'll be the 200th Ariane launch. This particular Ariane 5 and its automated transfer vehicle rolled out to the launch pad yesterday, arrived at the launch center on May 25 of last year to begin the preparations for launch. A successful launch dress rehearsal and a fuel tank filling was conducted on February the 9th, earlier this month. Current status is that the final topping of the fuel tanks is being completed. Weather so far looks good at the launch center. All of the thermal conditioning for the spacecraft is looking good, with all the propellant tank pressures are all looking very good. The Automated Transfer Vehicle Control Center in Toulouse and the International Space Station partners have all been polled and are ready for launch. Bob Dempsey completed his poll of the Houston Flight Control Team early this morning and just sent out a reminder to the team to make sure that they were all still go for liftoff of the Johannes Kepler spacecraft. This is the latest in a series of resupply missions to the International Space Station. The Kanatori 2, or HTV-2 spacecraft, supplied by the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, launched on January 22 from Tadagashima, Japan, with more than 4 tons of supplies for the space station, and at birth to the Harmony module on January the 27th. The Progress 41 spacecraft launched with 3 tons of supplies on January 27th and docked to the station on the 29th of January. And a Progress 39 spacecraft full of trash will be undocking Sunday from the aft port of the Zvezda service module to make room for this vehicle, which is scheduled to launch from French Guiana in just a few minutes now, 21 minutes out from launch. We have some video that was recorded earlier of the rollout that occurred yesterday. Let's take a look at that rollout video now. This is a semi-time lapse video of the preparations of rollout of the Ariane 5 and its automated transfer vehicle, Johannes Kepler, at the Launch Complex 3 in French Guiana. At launch, the Automated Transfer Vehicle 2 will weigh more than 22 tons including its spacecraft and integrated cargo carrier. This is a tug-type vehicle that's capable of having its thrusters fired to adjust the space station's orbit. And along with the Columbus Laboratory, it's one of the key contributions by the European Space Agency to the International Space Station effort. Johannes Kepler vehicle is scheduled to dock automatically to the aft port of the Zvezda service module on the end of the space station's Russian segment on February the 23rd. Inside its pressurized volume, it'll have about 3,500 pounds of cargo for use by station crews. Of that, about 3,000 pounds are NASA cargo and 600 pounds are European Space Agency cargo. Among the research that's going to be delivered to the space station on this are additional systems for use in the integrated cardiovascular explanations that are looking at how the heart muscle weakens in microgravity. Also, European activities to help record educational demonstrations provided by crew members will be on board, as well as a simulation of geophysical fluid flow under microgravity experiment that studies thermal convection in space, and a transportation environment monitoring package that takes the temperature of data aboard the spacecraft. The vehicle equipment bay sits atop of the Ariane 5 launch rocket, and it's a steerable propellant stage. It is enclosed in a special fairing that will be jettisoned after launch. The main cryogenic stage for the rocket has a new Vulcan 2 engine, and it has two solid propellant strap-on boosters secured on either side of that section. Again, today's launch activities, which are now just over 19 minutes away from commencing, will be controlled by the ATV Control Center in Toulouse, France. Again, flight controllers here in Houston will be monitoring the preparations and launch of the Automated Transfer Vehicle 2, or Johannes Kepler. But the main control center will be at the ATV-2 Control Center in Toulouse, France. And of course, the launch site will be in Kourou, French Guiana, as displayed on this map here. The ATV Control Center, here's pictured, showed in the south of France, and it looks very similar to the Mission Control Center here in Houston. Again, the automated transfer vehicle itself is enclosed inside a fairing at the very top of the Ariane 5. We have a graphic here that shows it enclosed in its protective fairing that will be jettisoned after it reaches orbit. The vehicle sits atop the launch vehicle. It includes both water and gas tanks. A propulsion module allows it to maneuver in orbit. 4 solar arrays that will be deployed after it separates from the launch vehicle. A space debris protection system, payload racks inside that the crew will be able to ingress and move the cargo from inside the vehicle into the space station. Here's another look at how the layout of the interior of the spacecraft is. You can see the pressurized volume there at the very top where it will be docking to the Zvezda service module's aft docking port. And then inside that will be racks on integrated cargo carrier, and behind that are avionics, propulsion, and separation and distancing modules. Flight Director Bob Dempsey just receiving word from Kourou, French Guiana, that Automated Transfer Vehicle 2 is go for launch, and we are now just under 17 minutes out from launch. The ATV-2 is about the size of a traditional London double-decker bus, has a total length of about 32 feet and has a diameter of 14.7 feet. It's equipped with, as mentioned, 4 solar arrays capable of generating about 4,800 watts of electricity, and has 4 main engines and 20 smaller thrusters for attitude control. And of course, it uses a Russian-made docking system to connect to the Russian docking ports. After docking to the space station, which is planned for 9:20 a.m. Wednesday, February 23, the Automated Transfer Vehicle is going to spend about 3 months on orbit, providing ample time for the Expedition 26 and 27 crews to unload and take advantage of the cargo inside the Johannes Kepler cargo vehicle. At the end of that period, it's going to be commanded to undock and re-enter the atmosphere, carrying a load of trash as it burns up over the Pacific Ocean. We're now ready to hand over the commentary to the folks at the Kourou Launch Control Center, and we'll be handing that off to the folks at Ariane Space to continue on with launch commentary. ATF liftoff is scheduled for 15 minutes and 15 seconds from now.
Greetings and welcome to the big night, Ariane's 200th. We're green and ready to go. Joshua Jampel here with Alex Madembasi, Program Director from Ariane's Commercial Directorate. Hi.
Good evening to everyone and welcome to Kourou.
We have a lot to talk about. We will get underway after some opening words from Ariane Space's Chairman and Chief Executive, Jean-Yves Le Gall.
Bonjour. Good evening. First launch of the year for Ariane Space. This is a historical launch for 3 reasons. First of all, it is the second time that Ariane 5 is launching an ATV to the International Space Station. You remember that we launched the first one in March 2008. Kourou then entered the very exclusive club of space centers supplying the station. Well, this is the second time an ATV will go to the station, which has special flavor, meaning when the space shuttle is going to undergo its final launches in the coming weeks or months. The second reason, it's the 200th Ariane launch. I have talked to some veterans who were here for the first launch on Christmas Eve 1979. I can tell you that at the time, nobody imagined that one day there would be 200 launches, and only 30 years later. It proved the speed at which the Ariane program has developed and our success. The third reason is as important. As you know, this year, Arianespace decided to change gear. Beside Ariane, we will have Soyuz and Vega launches in 2011. 6 Ariane 5 launches, with, of course, one tonight, 5 Soyuz launches, 2 from Guyana. The first one will take place in summer, with the first Galileo constellation satellite. In parallel, there will be 3 Soyuz launches in Baikonur and also the first Vega launch. So as you can see, this launch had 3 good reasons to be historical. And once more, Arianespace is proving its extraordinary capability to meet its deadlines. This date, February 15th, was decided with the station partners and our client, the European Space Agency, on October 1st. The remarkable thing is that between October 1st and today, we have launched 3 other Ariane 5, orbiting 6 big satellites at the end of October, November and December. When we announced this date, few people believed we could do it. But today is indeed February 15th. Let me invite you to watch the launch of Ariane 5 ES-ATV-2 Johannes Kepler.
2011, of course, a big year, as Mr. Legal said, but Arianespace coming off a big year of 2010, 12 satellites launched, 6 launches, over 45 tons of space hardware. Looking into the flight directorate here, Alex.
The flight directorate, which is put in place for each launch. On top of the launch-based organization, it has the power to decide to continue or suspend the operations in case of any serious issue related to the launch global security or reliability.
Any unexpected occurrences coming up this evening? You'll see these gentlemen on the phones with their teams here at the space base and around the world. The final decision, if anything comes up, is made here. We're going to be hearing from the launch director and the mission director on the launcher campaign. We'll be back.
Well, it is indeed a specific campaign because it is the 200th Ariane launch. It started very early, immediately after Flight 197 last year.
These hard-working teams were involved with assembly of the Ariane 5 since October of last year. They took advantage of the lessons learned from the first ATV flight. This saved time where work on the passenger was concerned. Flight 200, however, had certain restrictions, like all Ariane launches preceding it.
We started with the preparation of ground facilities and of the launcher, and went on till the ATV-2 reached the BAF. We also worked between Christmas and New Year to be ready to receive Johannes Kepler ATV-2.
ATV-2 has a special cargo access device to load last-minute items. It's the first time the European Space Agency has used such an element. Over 400 kilograms will be loaded through the International Space Station hatch, with the ATV in the vertical position atop Ariane 5. This gives flexibility in adapting the cargo to the needs of the space station.
Last-minute freight integration allows NASA to integrate the equipment necessary for the station as late as possible, knowing that nominally most of the freight is integrated 3 months before launch. Entering the module generates access constraints in terms of cleanliness and contamination. The European Space Agency implements procedures to make sure the operator's environment is fully compliant when he goes down into the module.
Another restriction, this launch is programmed for a fixed liftoff time, no launch window.
The last phase, that is the transfer of the launch vehicle to the launch pad, followed by filling, requires full compliance with the schedule because tonight we have no launch window.
After the launch readiness review, Ariane 5 was given the green light to move to the launch zone. This transfer is done the day before liftoff. Riding on the launch table specially conceived for it, Ariane makes her way slowly on the rail track, pulled by a special truck, to its position on the launch pad. Here, it awaits the final countdown. Awaiting final countdown now, too. Tonight, a very European launch. As a matter of fact, the launch manager, launch operations manager you saw in the film there, Klaus Zell, the first non-Frenchman we've ever used. He's a German. The green status panels, Alex.
It shows the health status of the ATV, the launch vehicle, and all the ground systems which are assigned to measuring, monitoring, or controlling all throughout the launch operations. So the security of the launch base and its vicinity is one of the primary concerns. In case of anomaly, the corresponding indication would turn to red, preventing the launch to occur until it turns back to green.
À tous de DDO, attention pour la séquence finale, lanceur.
That's the DDO. He's one of the main players tonight. He's going to announce the 7-minute mark, and you're going to be hearing from him during the broadcast.
Yes, he's one of the key persons of the launch campaign, indeed.
Top H0 7 minutes.
So he's announced the -7-minute mark, which is also called the automatic or synchronized sequence, which is the computers taking over, huh, Alex?
The EPC propellant tanks are still being filled with liquid oxygen and hydrogen. And from now, any activation of the ground or launcher electrical or mechanical system is automatically synchronized and decided by a computer, which will progressively put the launcher in flight configuration, followed by the ignition and control of the main engine, Vulcan 2.
A look under the fairing now at the ATV. Basically, I guess you could say a large cylinder, 10 meters by 4.5 meters wide. She will be 22 meters in all with the solar panels deployed, and that will come at the very, very end of our broadcast in about an hour from now, so stay tuned. 2 modules, the service module with the avionics propulsion systems, and the cargo module, of course, bringing much-needed supplies to the ISS. In all, 20 tons, the largest ever built in Europe, the largest launched by Ariane. We're going to go back into Jupiter, and you'll see the program directors now, more key players. These are people who are the Ariane space interface with the satellite mission directors. As a matter of fact, it's your job, isn't it, Alex?
Yes, it is. Christophe, as me, is in charge of the contracts management between Ariane Space and its customer here, ESA. So from the signature of the contract up to the instant of the launch, he will have to organize and coordinate the work of all the specialists who will eventually state on the ability of the ATV to withstand the launcher environment. So for a telecommunication satellite, it takes approximately 18 months to conduct all the necessary studies on thermal, dynamic, acoustic, and state on the compatibility with respect to the qualification of the satellite to the launcher environment.
And that's your job to follow this from 18 months before liftoff down to you have an after-launch review, I imagine, as well.
Absolutely. So we analyze all the data from the flight, of course, and we state on the ability for the next launch to take place.
Coming up on 4.5 minutes of the launch, we can get a look at the launcher now.
Yeah, the launcher is composed of the 2 solid boosters, big boosters of 280 tons each, the main stage, the EPC, which carries approximately 175 tons of propellant for a dry mass of 14 tons. And on top of the EPC, the EPS, the storable propellant stage, and supporting the ATV and its adapter, and enveloped by the fairing.
A red, as you can see, in the upper right-hand corner.
So a red did occur, so one of the systems has had an anomaly, and the launch team is now investigating to come back to green as early as possible. So we wait until some further information is given.
Arrêt du décompte suite à un rouge, ensemble de lancement.
Launch facilities, I guess, is the translation of that ensemble de lancement.
Yes, there are so many parameters that are monitored that one of them may have a wrong indication, then provoking a red. And then the team has some short time to investigate and fix the anomaly, and then put the indicator back to green, and then we go for launch.
Yeah, we mentioned, Alex was talking about the green status panels. The space base here is a very wide one, and a lot going on, all the different services, including launch services and the launcher, the satellites, the weather, safety, telemetry, the downrange
Tous de
stations.
l'EDO, la chronologie est arrêtée définitivement aujourd'hui, mardi 15.
So
GDO
the GDO says that the countdown is stopped because we have a fixed instant of launch. We don't have a launch window. So once the synchronized sequence has started, we have to launch on 8:0 time. Otherwise, we have to stop and then come back for another attempt, which will probably be tomorrow. So we wait until Mr. Legal says some word about the resumption of all the operations.
Okay, so there you have it. We're waiting for Mr. Legal to come out from the fishbowl on the other side, out into the red room where the VIPs and the invited guests are sitting. Countdown proceeded until -4 minutes and 1 second, as you saw. Then we had a hold. And since we have no launch window, as Alex said, the DDO declared that the countdown and all activities definitely stopped for tonight. Jean-Yves Legal making his way to the podium for his statement.
Bien, comme vous l'avez vu.
Well, as you have seen during the final countdown, one of the flashlights went red. Since we had no launch window, there will be no other attempt. From what I was told, there is an erroneous piece of data coming from the filling of the launcher. Our teams are already working on that to see what is happening and to try a new attempt tomorrow. I'm sorry, but you know, this is a difficult exercise and it doesn't work 100% of time.
So there you have it. We're stopped for tonight. There will probably be a press conference or some press releases and announcement, and we should see you back here tomorrow, same time, same place. But check with the Ariane, check on the website, arianespace.com. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
This is Mission Control Houston, back with coverage of the activities here in Houston as the team reacts to the delay in the Johannes Kepler Automated Transfer Vehicle 2 launch from Kourou, French Guiana. As the team at Launch Complex 3 reported, there was some erroneous data on the status of the Ariane 5 rocket and its cargo. And we'll have more details on that probably tomorrow after the data has a chance to be reviewed by the flight control team in French Guiana. Preliminary information being received from the Toulouse Control Center in France indicates that there may have been some erroneous data coming on the status of the tank levels for fuel on the Ariane 5 vehicle. The team there in Toulouse, as well as the team at the Launch Complex number 3 down in Kourou, French Guiana, will go over the data carefully, and if everything looks good, we'll try another launch attempt tomorrow. Tomorrow's NASA television coverage of the launch will begin at 3:30 p.m. Central, 4:30 Eastern, and we'll be looking forward toward a launch at approximately 3:50 p.m. Central Time, 4:50 p.m. Eastern. Again, today's planned launch of the Johannes Kepler Automated Transfer Vehicle 2 has been postponed at least until tomorrow, as flight controllers in Toulouse, France, and technicians at the Launch Complex 3 in Kourou, French Guiana, take a look at their data. Today's delay, the result of some erroneous information being passed on the status of the fuel tanks and their fill level aboard the spacecraft. Standing by to hear more from the ATV launch team here in the Houston Control Center as this team continues to follow carefully the activities in French Guiana. This is Mission Control Houston. Again, we are in a 24-hour hold following a wave-off of the planned launch of the Automated Transfer Vehicle 2, or Johannes Kepler, aboard an Ariane 5 rocket from the launch complex in Kourou, French Guiana. The launch had been scheduled for today at 4:13 p.m. Central Time, 5:13 p.m. Eastern. However, due to some erroneous readings in the fuel manifolds in the first stage of the Ariane 5 rocket, the control team in Toulouse, France, along with their technical counterparts at the launch complex in Kourou, French Guiana, elected to postpone the launch to no earlier than tomorrow. Tomorrow's launch coverage on NASA TV will begin at 3:30 p.m. Central Time, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, assuming the launch control team can analyze the data and identify where that erroneous data is coming from, whether it's a faulty sensor or whether it's a real problem with the manifolds. Will determine whether we take another launch attempt tomorrow. If a launch attempt is determined to be the right plan for tomorrow, the exact launch time will be 3:50 and 55 seconds p.m. Central Time. Again, this would be the second launch of an automated transfer vehicle to the International Space Station, the 200th Ariane launch and the 56th launch of an Ariane 5 launch vehicle. Just a few minutes ago, the spacecraft communicator here in Mission Control Houston called up to the Expedition 26 crew aboard the International Space Station, who had requested a live feed of the video from the launch to make sure they understood that the launch was postponed until tomorrow at the soonest. We have an audio replay of that we can let you listen to now.
Station Houston on 2 for ATV launch.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Katie, just want to give you all a heads up that we are no-go for launch. We're still sorting out the details for the scrub. We'll have more words for you in the morning, but we're looking at a one-day launch delay.
We copy. Thanks for the update.
Okay, thank you.
Again, that was a recorded conversation between the spacecraft communicator in Mission Control Houston and Katie Coleman, one of the flight engineers aboard the International Space Station, as the crew received the word that today's planned launch of the Ariane 5 and Automated Transfer Vehicle 2, Johannes Kepler, had been delayed. Right now, the team is in the process of looking at their data, planning for another launch attempt tomorrow at 3:50 p.m. and 55 seconds Central Time. NASA TV coverage of the second launch attempt for ATV-2 would begin at 3:30 p.m. Central Time tomorrow, assuming the data bears out the plan to try again tomorrow. Meanwhile, tomorrow also will be a busy day aboard the International Space Station as Oleg Skropochka and Dmitry Kondratyev prepare to step outside the hatch of the Pirs docking compartment for their second spacewalk of the year. Spacewalk coverage will begin at 6:45 a.m. Central Time tomorrow, with the actual hatch opening scheduled for 7:15 a.m. Central Time. The nearly 6 hours worth of spacewalk tasks planned for Kondratyev and Skropochka include the installation of 2 different experiment packages on the outside of the Russian segment of the space station, and the retrieval of some experiment packages that have been providing witness data for how different materials fare in the microgravity and space environment around the International Space Station. They also will jettison a science hardware foot restraint from the Zvezda service module. The experiments that will be installed include the Molniya Gamma science experiment and the radiometry science experiment. The radiometry will be installed on a portable workstation on the port side of the large diameter section of the Zvezda service module. And it's designed to collect information that will be useful in seismic forecasts and earthquake predictions. The Molniya Gamma experiment will look at gamma splashes and optical radiation that occur during terrestrial lightning and thunderstorms. You use 3 different sensors and will be installed on a portable workstation on the starboard side of the Zvezda module. The 2 experiment panels will be retrieved by the spacewalkers. Will be 2 Complas panels that are on the conical segment as the Zvezda of the Zarya module, as it reduces in size down to its connection with the Zvezda service module. During the spacewalk, Kondratyev will be designated EVA-1 or EV-1, and he'll have a red stripe on his spacesuit, while Skrzydlowski will be EV-2 with a blue stripe on his suits. This time, both of the cosmonauts are going to be wearing NASA-provided helmet lights and wireless television cameras to provide additional point-of-view video that will help folks in Mission Control Moscow monitor the progress of the spacewalk. The remainder of the space station crew will be located in different portions of the space station to protect against the unlikely event of an unplanned depressurization of the station. Commander Scott Kelly and Alexander Kaleri will be in the Poisk module near their Soyuz 24 spacecraft that they would use to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere in an emergency, while Apollo Nespoli and Katie Coleman will remain on the American side of the space station in the Rosviet module, where they have access to their Soyuz 25 spacecraft and to the rest of the U.S. operating segment of the space station to continue the research activities. Of course, the spacewalk will begin from the hatch on the Pirs docking module on the Earth-facing side of the Zvezda service module. Again, all that coming up early tomorrow with coverage on NASA TV scheduled to begin at 6:45 a.m. Central Time. And so with that, we will wrap up today's coverage of the planned launch of the Johannes Kepler Automated Transfer Vehicle 2 aboard the Ariane 5 spacecraft. Again, launch was postponed for at least a day as the flight controllers in Toulouse, France, and the launch control team in Kourou, French Guiana go over the data that was showing some erroneous readings associated with fuel flowing through the manifolds of the first stage of the launch vehicle. We'll be back tomorrow with launch coverage again at 3:30 p.m. Central Time, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, assuming the data will bear out another launch attempt tomorrow. In the meantime, all the latest information on the International Space Station and the planned launch of the Ariane 5 and Automated Transfer Vehicle 2 are available on the NASA website at www.nasa.gov, and we'll be back with spacewalk coverage starting at 6:45 a.m. Central tomorrow. This is Mission Control Houston.